I feel like the Matrix. Like I got this music going on right here. I don't know if I've ever felt like the Matrix, but maybe like if you slowed this down and like subdivided the music, it would be like, "Oh," everything is slowed down for me in this world of live streaming. What's going on? It's the Erskin Music Show. I'm so glad that you guys are here today. I got an empty seat that's over here for Jesus. No, well, for Jesus, but also for my friend Jason, who's going to be joining. I think he's going to be joining. He's a pastor. I think somebody wanted him for counseling. But anyway, we're going to be talking about leadership today, or I'm going to be talking about leadership today. It's live stream, so you never know what exactly is going to happen. But I've prepared to talk about leadership. Some of you guys know that I'm going to be working on some works in leadership, and I'll say a little bit more about that in the coming days. But today I wanted to drive home in these last couple of lessons, these last couple of episodes from the Erskin Music Show. I wanted to drive home the point on leadership. So we're going to be looking at some leadership fails on my part and some things that I've learned from God's word and some things that I think you guys will be encouraged with today. And so join the Erskin Music Show. The comment section is on. Looking forward to interacting with all of you guys with the show, after the show, around the show. It's the Erskin Music Show. All right, as I said, it's the Erskin Music Show, and I'm so glad that you guys have joined. I'm on location, actually, today. I'm in Litchfield, Illinois. Don't everybody run here at the same time. Don't everybody try to storm the church. We only have so much bandwidth this morning. And so you stay where you're at, I'll stay where I'm at. But we are not in the studios in Nashville, Tennessee. As you can see, we are in Litchfield, Illinois, and looking forward to this episode with you guys. I'd mentioned in the intro today that some of you guys know, and if you've talked to me recently, that I'm working on in 24 wanting to release a book on leadership. And man, are there a lot of books on leadership. There's a lot of books, there's a lot of articles. I don't know that there's any way that I could ever read everything that's ever been said about leadership. I'm just going to do the best that I can. But I'll tell you what, when it comes to the book that I want to write about leadership, no one will ever have my story as it relates to leadership. And as it relates to leadership, a lot of those stories are stories of failure, stories where I've gotten things wrong, stories where I've been a poor leader and then improved over time. Hey guys, I think this is the best manual for leadership that has ever been written. It is not written as a leadership manual, but you get to see so many examples of leadership spelled out in God's word that it helps you to understand truly what leadership is. And there's no greater person to see in leadership than the person of Jesus Christ. And so today's devotional, if you want to call it that, is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to take one verse of scripture that you guys are probably familiar with, and we're going to put that on the screen. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to give you guys a couple of leadership quotes from Tim Keller. I'm really liking Tim Keller these days. I go through waves where we tend to like Tim Keller more or like other people more, but I'm kind of on a Tim Keller thing, especially after what he said about Christmas and reading and saying some wonderful things about Christmas. And if you saw the broadcast yesterday, that was not live stream, but it was not the intention that I would duck any of the comments that I saw in the comment section. I want to be here with you guys, but sometimes I've got other responsibilities. And so I'll pre-record an episode for you guys and then come back later in the comment section and then try to respond to everybody. Nonetheless, let's get to a couple of things that are related to the Erskin Music Show here. You guys got all the information that you need, hopefully, in the intro. All you need to know, you already got in the intro. But let's do this just for dexterity. And then we'll get started here. Okay. All right. You guys know the Erskin Music Show. He's good to go. And let's do this also. For those of you, whoever you might be, who are watching this show on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, or the emerging LinkedIn audience, it's good to see you guys. Remember to hit that subscribe button, like the channel, and you won't miss a single episode. All right, so there's that. I want to get to some leadership stuff here, and I want to use scrolling at the bottom of the screen there. I want to use a verse of scripture that comes from Philippians chapter 1, verse 6. And I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus. Whoops. I'm sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. That's Philippians 1:6. And there's three quotes that I wanted to use from Tim Keller. And the first quote today from Tim Keller is this quote: "The more you see your flaws and sins, the more precious, electrifying, and amazing God's grace appears to you." And so that is the quote that he has in a sort of a compendium of quotes. If you're looking for any of these quotes or access to these quotes, I've put those in the show notes for today. And so be sure to check those things out. But the more that we see God's grace, the more that we see and understand our sin, the more electrifying and amazing God's grace appears to us. That is an amazing statement that in reference to our sin, in reference to understanding the scope of God's grace, helps us to understand the largeness and the beauty of who God is. All right, I want to invite to the show my friend Jason. The show is on. It's a live stream show. So at 8:45, I have a little icon that comes on. Welcome to the show, sir.
All right.
All right. That's exactly. So when you guys hear that moniker when it comes on the podcast, all right, back to the show.
That's it.
That's this man's voice. He is here, live and in person. Well, first of all, let me say good morning to you.
Yeah. Good morning.
Coming in hot.
Yeah, coming in hot. That's right.
Let you get comfortable here. Let you get set up on the scene here. And so,
all right.
I think we got good audio here for you. The microphone is right there, and we're going over a couple of leadership quotes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we'll get to some leadership quotes, but I'm going over some devotional thoughts from Tim Keller. And the first one appears here on the screen here. The more you see your own flaws and sins, the more precious, electrifying, and amazing God's grace appears to you. I was just freestyling on that for just a little bit. And if you have any comments that you wanted to make about that, you are certainly welcome, sir.
I think
to jump in at that level. This is the devotional part of what it is that we're doing. We'll get to our top story, which is us talking about leadership and just sort of how that has looked in our lives and some of the areas that we failed. I did prep him about the show. Like he knew to come to the show.
I knew the show was going to happen, but I need to pay attention to my calendar a little better about timing. So that's on me.
I thought you were counseling somebody. Being the leader that you are, I was like, no. He's counseling. I don't want to bust him there and be like, I know you're trying to help somebody put their life back together, but we got a show that you need to be on.
Yeah.
That's a leadership fail, by the way.
Yeah, but thankfully, no counseling before 9. I got to get my coffee first.
Okay.
So we can't counsel before 9. I think the Tim Keller's quote, what that reminds me of is something that we say around here quite a bit is that everybody is broken, and the only hope you have for restoration and reconciliation is the redemption that Jesus offers. Being able to see
was big. He just came out swinging. Like, he's like, I'm a little woozy coming to the show. Buy him.
Yeah. Being able to see your brokenness in somebody else. I think that's where the highlight of God's grace, because you can see how they struggle. You can see where you struggle as they do, and the grace of God is magnified. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what I would get from what Keller's saying there. I think that's good.
Yeah. Keller, and this is kind of one of our devotional thoughts for that. I've got 3 of them. Mm-hmm. But if your God never disagrees with you, you might just be worshiping an idealized version of yourself.
Yep.
You can't say amen, say ouch.
That's right.
Come on, gospel choir. Where y'all at? And this is time for the gospel choir. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. So, where do you want to go with this one? This is a deep well.
That one with the idolized version of yourself?
Yeah.
I think that's dead on. I don't think you... I think he's spot on.
Tim Keller gave us a quote that the quote speaks for itself, and there's really nothing else that can be said in reference to that. But I did want to say that I had a conversation with someone the other day, and they didn't like my view of, I'll just make this as general as I possibly can. They didn't like my view of what God says about a certain issue in the Bible. And so they kept using the word you. And I kept thinking to myself, well, in a certain sense, that's correct because I'm the one that's saying it. But ultimately, I'm referring to the fact that God is the one who says this, and He's the one who's
Yeah.
authoritative,
Yeah.
and His voice overshadows my voice. And I told them in this conversation, I said, look, if there was a verse in there that indicated that there was something in my own life, my own self, that I completely disagreed with, then I would have to look at God's word and I'd have to say, well, God said this. And even though I don't like it, which is often what I have to do, even though I don't like
Yeah.
it and like the implications of where this goes, I have to say this. I have to alter my life and reflect upon this. And so I get challenged all the time.
They don't. Yeah. The person doesn't understand that the Bible is the standard, and that we're constantly trying to conform our lives into that standard, obviously through the power of the Spirit. But um, there are many times I read the scriptures. I just preached through James.
Okay.
And James is humiliating.
He ain't playing around.
James is humiliating.
You brought the Old Testament into the New Testament in terms of wisdom.
Yeah. And so anytime you're sitting there looking at the Bible through the lens of the gospel and the lens of your depravity, it's always a conflicted thing. So I can understand why the person feels that way. The problem is they're giving you too much credit.
Yeah.
They're giving me too much credit, right? Because you're actually thinking that I can come up with this stuff.
Yeah.
All I'm doing is echoing what God has been working in my own life and in the life of those around me. So you got to get past that.
Well, what's funny is that I often turn the conversation into saying, okay, okay, you don't believe what I believe. That's fine. What do you believe? And then when they start laying out a series of beliefs that they have, well, who came up with that? Well, you came up with that. You're obviously giving yourself a lot of credit. You have become God. And in my estimation, even though I'm not trying to be punchy about stuff, that's a very arrogant thing for me to say. You know what? That book that says what God's word says is not true. It's not accurate. I'm going to tell you what now is accurate and what is most helpful for you and flourishing. And that's
it's one of the issues I have
kind of shaky on that.
with the kind of the progressive ideology is there's just an arrogance that you just throw all this thousands of years of wisdom and living in this world just out start with the baby. Oh, it's all gone. It's not to say
we
that
can do better.
Yeah, it's not to say
we can do better.
There wasn't things wrong. Fine, we can address things that are wrong, but just to throw everything out because it's not progressive, it's not new. It's just I think it's the arrogance of the age. It is prideful to think that way and do that. So,
all right, let's on this devotional tip this morning. We're getting warmed up this morning. This may be helpful for us. The mark of the godly man is he likes to change. The mark of the godly man is that he says, Lord, show me where I should change and I'll do it. Show me where I should obey, even when it's hard, and I'll do it.
Yeah. Obedience is an expression of love for Jesus, isn't it? Jesus says, if you love me, you will obey me, keep my commandments, right? And you'll obey me. And if you're going to lead in the way that he leads, if you look at John 15, Jesus actually grounded his argument to obey in his own example, how he obeys the Father.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to love the way he loves, you have to love the way he loves the Father and the Father loves him. If you're going to lead, you have to lead the same way that he has led and obeyed his Father and called his life to take up his cross and die for sinners. So that's obedience has to be the mark. I think one of the strongest marks of a leader. If you can't obey yourself, how in the world can you get others to follow that example?
I remember way back in the day, and I said this last night. I was speaking to the youth group at the church, and I was saying, "Hey guys, I'm excited to be here. Thank you guys so much. I've been going around the country tormenting youth groups, and I'll have the opportunity to go around the country tormenting college students in the spring, just sharing with them what God's word says. And I don't give you a pass because I don't give myself a pass on this whole thing." And one of the things that I remember way back in my days when I was actually on staff at a church in student ministry is that I would often change things. Like we were always changing things. Like you like to change things a lot. And I was like, well, I do change things a lot. That's part of that creative bent. But there's also a certain part of me that's like, I'm not going to try to grow satisfied in where it is that I'm at and like put down stakes and be like, okay, I'm good enough. I'm as good as I need to be in order to follow the Lord. There's always, as we're working out our salvation with fear and trembling, more than I'm saying, okay, that's an area that needs to change. And even today, I'm like, there's a couple of things that I need to do a little bit better. I'm not going to be, certainly not going to be auditioning for Dad of the Year. So that whole perpetual change.
I've known you for 20 years, and I would say that you have tempered well. You you have a lot of energy,
that's,
but
that's one way to say it.
but I think
these are ways that you can talk to your friends.
Yeah.
And this is like live stream right now. So if you have
Yeah.
a friend and it's like a touchy situation, tell them, you've got a lot of energy. Just basically
No.
means you're a really rotten sinner.
No. I've seen the work of grace in your life where you
He's definitely a pastor.
you have tempered so well because you've not been afraid to look in and see that stuff and be willing. Hey, look, I gotta make a change here. I've got to do something. Um, I've actually heard you verbalize like, "Hey, I'm working on this. I see this. I'm working on this." And as a friend, it's helped me out because now I know not only how to pray but how to help. And
Sure.
there's not a lot of people who are willing to vocalize things they're working on, like real things. So that's good. That's wise. That's good.
Listen, guys, if I'm coming to a university or to a school near you, or I'm speaking to students or I'm speaking to adults, it doesn't make any difference. I'm not going to take it easy on you because I don't take it easy on me.
Nope.
That's all you need to know about this bad boy. So that's Tim Keller. We're going to get to some leadership things from somebody that we both really appreciate,
Yep.
Tony Dungy. And that's going to be our top story for today. So here we go. All right, so we got some leadership lessons that we can live by. And there's a guy by the name of Tony Dungy, who you and I have both read, and we've admired him, and just sort of talk a little bit about how you come to appreciate Tony Dungy.
I read his, yeah. He's probably my favorite football coach of all time. I read his book, Quiet Strength, and I appreciated his candor and his faith. He reminded me that you can be an NFL football coach and be very genuine in your love for Jesus. I also watched his life, and then I watched through his book as I got to know him through his book. The things that he had to tackle personally with his children, and how with this really sweet, wise, good way of dealing with his family and the priority he put on his family. I just really admired the man. And then you hear the commentary from his players and how much they admired him as a man. It all fits. Like everything is consistent. And so I like it when a man's life is consistent. I can follow that. So I began to just look at him and study him. I'm currently actually reading his mentoring as leading book right now.
I just saw that.
Yeah.
I was looking through some of his works this morning, and I was like, oh, he's got some books that I haven't read.
Yeah, and he's just good. He's very applicable, tangible things you can do right now to just be a better, not only a better person, just a better leader among the people you're with. And so I would highly recommend that you read anything that Tony puts out because he's credible for starters. I haven't found any demons in his closet that would discredit him. He's truthful. He's truthful about his own weaknesses. He'll be honest about those, and he'll give you really good practical advice. Really helpful stuff. Yeah, just a great. It would be a highlight of my life to meet him and shake hands with him.
Yeah, let's do this. We want to do one Tony Dungy quote. Maybe talk a little bit about that in the context of things that we have failed in leadership or maybe succeeded in leadership, however you want to go with that. Then we'll get a little bit of Erskin music, then we'll come back and we'll finish with a quote, and then we'll be out.
Yeah.
So I want to be respectful of your time, so I'll give you a little bit of an outline there. All right, so the first quote that I wanted to use is one that he says, "The secret to success is good leadership. And good leadership is all about making the lives of your team members or workers better."
It's the concept of I'm successful the most when you're the most successful. And I think he exhibits that, and that is easy to say but hard to do.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a counterintuitive
Yeah.
word that he has just given there,
Yeah.
because we mark success
Yeah.
based on, well, you're higher than or you're lower than, and you've
Yep.
been able to achieve.
Yep.
When in fact Tony Dungy is saying, if you can pull others up to a measure of success, then you're actually
Right.
achieving. And I think that that's actually more of a biblical standard, a
Abs-
godly
Absolutely.
standard, than the sort of pecking order way that we go about looking at things.
That's that leadership, that servant leadership. And if you look at the life of Christ, the disciples, that was his whole goal. And as you look at Christianity, the whole idea of Christianity is to be conformed into the image of the Son.
Mm-hmm.
So he's constantly working to make you better. He's constantly working to make you more like him. And if you were to take those principles and apply them, that means you're going to have to slay your pride, and you're going to have to slay your ideas of what it means to be. You're going to have to get rid of the world's scaffolding, if you will, of success and leadership, because that's going to break the moment you put the weight of this kind of idea that I'm the most successful when I make you the most successful. That is that's going to crush this kind of arrogance that's out there, that I need to get mine. I need to be at the center of attention. I need to be up there. And again, if you just look at Tony Dungy's life and you look at even his demeanor, just watch him on TV. He's just not the guy who's going to grab all the attention. But yet when he speaks, they all listen.
Yeah.
So
This is one of those areas where I feel like, for a lot of artists, music artists that are out there, the whole idea that you're successful when you're successful is one that the world just lies to you. There are lies that you believe in all of our hearts. There's lies that we believe in. Even when I moved to Nashville about 10 years ago, the belief that I'm successful when I'm successful, and I can tell you how successful that I am, or I can show you how successful I am, or I feel the need to qualify to you how successful I am based on what it is that I've done. And that shift in thinking has really, what that did for me is it began to expose, and I say this humbly, it exposed weak leadership to me. It exposed bad direction. It exposed foolish thinking. It exposed a lot of different things that I look at in the music and even Christian music industry, if I can go ahead and say it like that. And I go, that's just foolish thinking.
Yeah.
The fact that there's only about 15 to 20 artists that you ever hear on the radio, because those are the ones the record labels put up, is to not understand the immense amount of artists that are out there who have incredible value. I was at what school was that I was at yesterday? Faith
Faith Baptist Academy.
Faith Baptist Academy, middle of a cornfield, and not very many students that are there.
Old building,
old school. Just think, we went back to the 1960s.
Go back a little further.
Okay, well, that's as far as I wanted to go back today.
Yeah.
But man, those students were just so encouraged. Spending time with them yesterday and just being able to see their faces and hear just a little bit about what their lives are. And one little girl was just like, "Hey, is this this is you on this card that you gave me?" Yeah, this is me. Okay, all right. So none of that stuff, but just thinking about the fact that for a lot of people, when you're in their presence, it really does make a difference. Like, they don't even know who Brandon Lake is. They don't even know who a lot of the folks that I listen to, they don't even know who those artists are. But you're there with them, and there's proximity, and there's an opportunity to make an impact. And if you have 2,000 artists that are thinking that way, and they're going to all the respective places that they can go, that's a lot better return on investment than saying, okay, we're going to be artists and they're going to do these massive events. People aren't going to really know who they are. They're not going to be able to get close to them, but we're going to give the image that this is Christianity because of some of the ways that they sing songs and put lights around it. I don't know. That's kind of my take, is just like, there has to be more than just individuals. There has to be teams that are being built and people that are being built up. And so this really helped me turn a corner and see, if it's just one person that's being built up, that's nonsense.
One thing is I've enjoyed about your ministry when you moved to Nashville was this idea that one, you're going to keep things Christ centered, but you're going to keep things ministry minded. You're always looking at the ministry and how we're going to advance the kingdom of God. I got exposed to a bit of the machine of the Christian music industry when I was in a community in Minnesota, and they were trying to get Third Day to come do a concert there. And essentially the machine said no, unless you're going to pay this outrageous amount of money.
Yeah, he's too small, man. You too
You're
small.
too
You
small.
too little.
Yeah.
You too little.
And you're looking at the church and you're like, man, these people being encouraged. This is what you're doing. And I have no idea if Third Day had a ministry mindset or not. What I do know is they were trapped inside of this agreement.
Yeah, they probably did. And they probably wanted to come. They would have gone,
right.
Except they look
can't.
at that contract and being
right.
like,
yep.
yeah, feed
so
the fam.
It wasn't about making others better or more successful. It becomes about making money. And yeah, that's another conversation.
Another conversation for another
day.
But here's a good conversation. This is Christmas is Every Day, a poem that I did set to some music years ago that has actually turned into a rap song. I may actually do it today. I need to do the song. I need to do the rap song today.
You should rap. You should flow.
Yeah. So, but this is not the rap song version of it. That is actually going to be coming out on the Christmas special that I'm going to be doing here in the next couple of days. So you'll want to be aware of that. But this is Christmas Every Day. This is the Erskin Music portion of the Erskin Music Show. Check this out, and then we'll be back to finish our discussion on leadership today.
It's all about the birth of a king. He was holy, but born by the most humble of means. Yeah, it could have been anywhere, a palace like Alice or even a mountain at the top. But God's wisdom unveiled in a lowly, stable feeding trough. Peculiar, maybe. But Father knows best about the plan that saved me. 'Cause we were all desperate for answers to life's greatest disaster. God holy, man becomes a rebel, falling victim to lies and all the schemes of the devil. But let me swivel to this God, the judge, the sovereign and creator. He redirects the punishment to the one born in the manger. But don't tell me you haven't heard of stranger things, unique rings, a chorus played out on biblical strings. That Christ was born to live and born to die, God's remedy for sin, and that shouldn't surprise. This practical application of prophetic information, that's why I'm pacing, so you don't think I'm wasting your time. Because time waits for no man. Oh man, oh well, let's bow down before Emmanuel. I'm not ashamed to say that Christmas is every day. Candy canes and crosses, and I don't care what the world says. 'Cause when they don't talk by the Spirit. And when they don't walk by the Spirit. So let me draw the curtain, 'cause I'm certain that most people know that Christmas is more than a day in the year. Check that, some still know, right? Wreck that. We all need to hear that he's the reason for the season. So forget the cultural commentary that makes gift giving primary, and see the burden for this child born by Joseph and Mary. Forgive me if you think this flow is quite contrary, but the book of Hebrews says that neglect is scary. White flag surrender, no more pretenders. Jesus came into the world to save the guilty sinner. Trust Jesus today and every day. Christmas is every day.
All right, we're back. Top story today is we're talking about leadership, some leadership fails, some leadership successes. Here we go. Tony Dungy says, you may not win the Super Bowl. Your kids may not go to be doctors and lawyers, and everything may not go perfectly. That doesn't mean that was a bad plan or the wrong thing. Just like a football season, everything's not going to go perfect. Good quote. I want to kind of get a little punchy on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Your comments are welcome. Any stories that you have about leadership, any ideas that you have, any amens, any disagreements that you have, just type those on the screen. It helps the algorithm, lets people know that you're enjoying this conversation and you like more of this sort of thing. We want to flood the internet. We want to flood social media with things that are encouraging, positive, challenging for folks. And so you getting on there and even making a couple of comments lets people know, hey, there's something going on over there that's of value. And that's kind of how this internet world and space works. I'll get a little bit punchy with this, but let me just get your first thoughts on that. You've coached football before. You've coached football in Texas before. You've coached football even this year in Litchfield, Illinois.
Yep.
As a football coach, everything doesn't go perfect, does it?
No, no. You have all kinds of things like assignments being missed.
Yes.
And things you repped 100 times in practice, all of a sudden leave.
Yes, we forgot. We
they
never
just
done this
spill out.
before.
Yeah, yep. Frustrations can get high, and yeah, absolutely. You have to be very patient with the process, and you have to believe in the process. And part of understanding the process is understanding that there's mountain and valleys. There are things that are going to break. There are things that's not going to work. There are going to things that you thought were going to work that should have worked maybe, but just and maybe in other situations will work. But with this particular game, with this particular circumstance, this is not going to be applicable. Mike Leach just passed away. The
Yes.
Mississippi State coach.
Condolences to his family.
Yeah. One of the things I really appreciated about him is the way he approached these situations, and he developed his offensive philosophy around this idea that what works one game doesn't work another game, and he had all these arrows in his quiver to deal with that kind of stuff, and so even though you might have a bad plan or you might have something that's not working, these contingencies he would have. One of the things in particular that stood out to me was I think he was playing USC in a bowl, and I think he was with Mississippi State when they won. It's either them or the Cougars. But this guy is known for throwing the ball all over the place, and USC got so aggressive that he went to this shovel pass and just like smoked them up. And that was Mike Leach operating from a game plan, but realizing that, hey, things are not going to go well. You got to change it up, and you got to be able to adapt. And so he was somebody as a football coach. He was somebody who embodied this kind of idea. Yeah, I'm just curious what you're punchy about with this.
Well, there's a couple of layers to this. One, from the organizational standpoint level, I think you have to lie in order to get jobs these days. You imagine going into a general manager, a team, and saying, we may not win the Super Bowl this year. We may not win the Super Bowl, but I can tell you what, we're going to develop character. We're going to develop some integrity. We're going to develop a system here. We're going to develop a plan. Most people are like, no, that's not what we want to hear. We're going to hire the next guy. We're going to hire the guy that's like, we're going to come in. We're going to run roughshod over everybody. We're going to get all the bad players out, bring all the good players in, and we're going to win the Super Bowl this next year. Like, I think that there's this mentality in the world that, like, if I don't win a Grammy, if I don't win, then what are we even trying to do here? And like, we don't see incrementalism as being that important. So even at the House Church Nashville, what we say is worship Jesus, think small. Like, the next small but important thing that God calls you to do is the most important thing that you can do. And so we're not going to win the city of Nashville by coming out and saying, you know what, our goal is this year we're going to have 5,000 people. We're going to be in the stadium. We're going to, do all these different things. No, we're going to wave to our neighbor. We're going to actually do something kind to the people that are around us. And that's the win. That is the Super Bowl for us, but it's a small thing. And you keep laying those foundations. So there's just a little bit of that from the organizational standpoint. But I was thinking to myself, Tony Dungy cannot be woke, because in our generation, in our day that we live in now, like, everybody should have all of the same things. And so when he's saying that your kids may not be a doctor, they may not be a lawyer, what, you know, tell me that my kid can't be a doctor or can't be a lawyer? They may not.
That's a lie from the devil. You want to know one of the greatest lies they told us when we were kids?
Come on, share it with the people.
You can be anything you want to be.
You can be anything you want to be.
That was one of the greatest lies that was ever told. I don't think it was intentional. I think the motive behind it was, hey, to inspire you to reach for the stars and all that. It just wasn't true. It just wasn't true.
Well, I think that as a modification, they probably should have said, work as hard as you can, and then what you want to be will be revealed, and then you can try to achieve being that. But I think putting people into categories and saying, oh man, you want to be a doctor? You want to be a lawyer?
Well, the other one was more catchy.
Yeah. A nuclear physicist. I know you don't do your homework and you don't like math and you're not very good at science.
You hate math. You hate science,
but you want to be a nuclear physicist if you want to.
If you want to be. If you just set your mind to it.
Yeah.
I could set my mind all day long to calculus. Ain't going to happen. I'm not a calc guy. I can set my mind all day long.
Not a calc or trig guy.
That's right. I can even set my mind. This is why I think
I'll
probably
get some stats in pre-algebra though. Come on.
this whole idea of identifying with things, like, I want to identify, it's just so odd, because it's like an extension of what we were told as a kid. You can be whatever you want to be, except it's just worse. It's just like, well, since I realize I can't be that, I'm just going to identify as that.
Now you're getting punchy. We weren't going there today, but you just put that out there on live stream.
Hey,
so now we got to deal with that.
I'm a big, like, living the truth, dying a lie. That's what I tell my kids all the time.
Living the truth, dying a lie. The truth
That's right.
Come on.
Living the truth,
John
dying a lie.
8:36.
And if you live in the truth, you can operate this world, because God has wired it this way, a wise way to live. And what I mean wise is, it's not just moral wisdom, it's practical wisdom too. He's given us creation to explore, and to use and to tame and to build and do all kinds of things. And he's given us people who are great at being engineers and who can mine the earth and do different things. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. He's gifted me in a different way.
They're archaeologists, bro. Yeah. They're like, go out in the dirt, man, and just be like with a toothbrush, like all day long. Like, that's right, man, this is inspiring to me. And that inspires him. And I'm excited they're inspired about that, because I'll read about their archaeological finds and I'm like, man, God bless them for the work they did. You can find me in the dirt all day with a toothbrush trying to find little sticks from Native Americans.
You want to tie it back to leadership, though, but this is where it's important for fathers to lead the home and study their children and be able to have a conversation with them.
That's good.
Right. If my my daughter is in college right now, doesn't like math, doesn't want to do math, and she wanted to come talk to me about the medical field and some other things. I said, hey, on a social level, you could totally do it. You love people, you serve people. And I mean, like, you are genuinely caring about people. So on that level, I can see you doing it. The problem is all that math and science, and you don't like it, and you struggle with it. Are you sure you want to go that direction and then tackle that hill?
Yeah.
Right. And then she comes to the conclusion that, no, I'm not that committed to it. You know what she did instead? I'm going to serve children. I'm going to be a teacher.
Okay.
Heck yeah. So now, as her daddy, I'm like, that's spot on. Because you are bright and you are gifted, and you can now, both things can work. And you know what she's doing?
And if you're watching this, you should be studying for finals instead.
That's right. That's right.
Don't watch this until after you study for your finals.
So now that she's heading that direction, with the help of her daddy and her mom and her church people like Sonny and Audra and these guys, they said, look, that's a really good fit for you. And you're still reaching for the stars, because you know what that means? Because now you could be like that educator, that person who goes the distance in education, because you had people speak in your life and study you and know you. And so I steered away from that whole idea that you can be everything you want to be. And knowing that, I'm trying to get back to Dungy's quote, I guess, but he says it doesn't mean that it was a bad plan or wrong thing. Well, I think it is, if you're shooting with this idea that you can be anything you want to be. I think that's a bad idea. I think you need to be wise and reasonable. And maybe I'm being too pessimistic with it. I don't know.
Maybe you're elitist. I don't know. Maybe you're just white.
White.
I'm elitist. You've always had these opportunities that have been given to you, and then we Katie barred the doors, and like Hidden Figures and stuff. Like, they could have done the work, but then they wouldn't put them in the separate but equal kind of category. We're not trying to jump off the bridge on all of that.
Let's go there.
That's where I was going to get a little bit punchy. We got a whole weekend show that we can do that sort of thing on. And that's kind of one of the ways that we try to encourage and inspire the church. And so, by the way, if you didn't know that we have a weekend show that we do. Normally we're in two different locations, but we're in the same location, and it's called The Way Forward. So check that out. It's a derivative of this show. And we just happen to be fortunate enough to be in the same building this week. And so these are important things to us, because they allow us to be able to look and kind of peel back some of the layers of our cultural conversation, along with experiences that we've seen. And so that was, relatively the same age and have grown up, maybe in different parts of the country, but same messaging. Like, you can be and do anything that you want to do. And so some of that is extremely, I think it's helpful to at least open up the possibilities of thinking about what you could do without having doors that are closed at the beginning. But then as you begin to gain more experience, you begin to figure out what you want to do.
And and good leadership is both having somebody speak into your life and then letting somebody speak into your life. And
That's
so
good. That's good. See, now we talked about some things, kind of put us on the edge there, but then that
that's
was able
right.
to bring about something that I think is vitally helpful for
Right.
people.
Right. You have to be able to listen. And I just want to call those dads out there who are watching, invite yourself, plant yourself, invade your kid's life, and
Hmm.
let them know that you have been praying for them, you're wisely thinking about them, you're studying them, and you want to of course we want them to be successful, and we want to do, and then like you said, they may not be doctors or lawyers. That's okay. Um,
Yeah.
but you're going to be what God has gifted you and called you to be, because I'm helping you explore that.
Yeah, exactly. So
Mhm.
that's kind of where I wanted to land the plane today, is just to say that a good leader will draw that out. I want to give a quick shout out to Mr. Harold. I don't even know if he's still alive. But Mr. Harold, if you're still alive and you're watching this, or anybody that knows Mr. Harold, who was my high school physics teacher. I was in honors physics, and I didn't think that I could do the work, but
You were in honors physics.
I was in honors physics and honors biology. I was in
What,
honors
you were
everything.
you were in honors everything?
I was in honors
Hey,
everything.
do you what? This is listen to me. This will be a conversation for another time. Uh, I I barely got out of high school with a 2.0. Barely got out of high school with a 2.0.
Well, here's the deal. Here's the reason why I'm giving a shout out, because this is a leadership thing. This is Mr. Harold is looking at me, and I was like, man, I don't know if I can do honors physics. And like, well, are you willing to try? And I'm like, sure. And we do the work. Okay. Will you and I would go in early. Will you go in early and do the work? Will you sit with me? Will you listen? And that's that part of being teachable that
Yeah,
I think he really appreciated, is the fact that I'm
yeah,
saying, okay, I'm humble enough to recognize this might be a difficulty and a struggle, but I'm willing to try. And he was able to bring that out of me and make sure that,
that's
I
good.
understood everything that I needed to understand, and that when the tests were given me, there was no modification to the test. I had to do all the work that everybody else had to
Yeah,
do, but he invested so much around me that it began giving me confidence. You know what? I can be in honors classes. I can do this work. I
yeah.
can sit alongside these students. I can carry my Bible to class. And what y'all want to say to me? I'm in all honors class.
I in football we call that coachable. I'm sure basketball the same thing,
Yeah.
right? If you could have a subpar athlete who's average and turn him into a really great player, if he's coachable
Hmm.
or she's coachable. Just just being willing to be taught and willing to put it out there and work hard and learn can be that. Um, we've had athletes on our football team that were decent athletes. They're out there. They had a great work ethic, and they're coachable. Really have a good season. Do good things. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think that's absolutely superb. I was I was likable, but I don't think I was teachable in high school. And I think
It happens.
that's what the teachers love me to death, and they always thought I was underperforming. Miss Erickson,
We giving shouts out
Miss
to
Erickson
some leaders in our lives.
was my one of my literature English writing teachers, uh, and she is one of those people who um, I mean, I remember I came and I took the ACT. I didn't do very well in the ACT, and she just looked at me. What are you doing? Like, what? Why are you should be blowing this thing out of the water. I know you. Like
Mm.
I've taught you for several years, and this is not indicative of who you are. And so I came to blossom a little bit later in college, but not in high school. But Miss Erickson was somebody who was that kind of person to you. She's like, you need to come in, talk to me. You need to sit down.
Yeah.
You can articulate, you can write. You're just not applying yourself.
And I think a good leader can see things in people that will
Mhm,
help them to flourish in a particular area. That's like a good
mhm.
coach does. It's like, okay, you're not a running back, but you might be a good wide
Yeah.
receiver. You're not, a quarterback, but hey,
Well,
you might work well at this position, and just putting people in places and giving them the possibilities of what it is that they can do. And I think there's a lot from Tony Dungy and coaches that we have gleaned ourselves that have helped us to understand some of these lessons in leadership.
well, going back to Mike Leach, he's of that era who said, "Look, I don't just give me an athlete. Just give me somebody who wants to play football. I'll put him somewhere, and we'll figure it out." I think that's a great coaching philosophy.
Hmm.
Just give me somebody who wants to play, who's willing to get out there and work hard. They don't have to be a quarterback. If they're willing to put on any it takes 11 guys to play the game at one given time. If you're willing to be one of those 11, doesn't matter where you are, I can put you somewhere and I can do something with that. I think that's good leadership.
We can build a team.
We can build a team.
So this is the kind of things that you get on the Way Forward show, and the Erskin Music Show has been blessed today to have you, Jason. I know that phones ringing, schedules. There's a lot of different things that are going on, a lot of moving parts in a pastor's world.
Yeah.
But it has been a tremendous week so far, and just looking forward to being with you guys on Sunday worship service, and I got some special things that are coming out. And so thank you for joining the show today, the Erskin Music Show. You can get up off of that hard stool now if you want to. Should have thought that out a little bit better. But again, Erskin Music Show, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. That is our week's broadcast. You will not want to miss next week. I'm going to be doing some more stuff on leadership. I cannot let it go. I love these lessons in leadership, and talk a little bit more about some of the things that are going on in my own life, ministry, career, if you want to call it that, and share some of those things. I've got some special guests that are coming up here, and so we're not stopping with the guests. We're just going to keep going, but we are going to stop before Christmas and then let people have time with their families. But I'm doing a major Christmas extravaganza, major-ish, and you guys will really enjoy that. It's a couple of Christmas broadcasts that I'm putting together, and they're going to be, I think, unique in the history of the Erskin Music Show. And so you guys will not want to miss that. That's coming out very soon. Look for some details related to that. Thank you guys so much for joining. Chester, always great to see your name. Have a great day. Thank you for your participation, and all of you guys that participate. The Midwest is strong. The South, the East is strong. Overseas is strong. And kind of like Scooby-Doo, we wouldn't have a show without you. So Erskin Music Show, thanks.